Warning: the radio broadcast you're about to hear was made by men and for men. It may at times seem a little rough around the edges, brash, and certainly not canonically approved by papal authority. But its content may indeed challenge you to become the man, father, husband God has called you to be. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to another week of The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. So glad you are here. I've had an exciting week. I've been able to sit down with Bill Fountain. Bill is a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, and he is running for the CMS school board. We were able to talk about the wokism going on in our culture, our society, our church, and ultimately our schools. You know, our schools are being very much affected. Bill has agreed to come on The Obligation. I'm looking forward to having him. Bill, it was a great talking to you on our last series, and welcome to The Obligation.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that, to be able to, kind of hone in on what this woke culture is, corrupting the morals of our children.
Absolutely, it's a real mess, and ultimately, it's affecting society as a whole, but affecting families and the domestic church, which is where that brings us. So, on this episode, we're going to talk about some of your history. I know you have a vast history with the Air Force, a lot of travels in your youth, and hear a little bit about that and hear about your conversion story. Here on The Obligation, we've been talking a lot with folks across the country about their reversions, as myself, brought up Catholic and fell away, and reverted back to the church in my young 20s, and also folks who have found the beauty of the Catholic Church and converted over. So I look forward to hearing that, and I guess let's get started. You haven't been in Cornelius. You're in Cornelius. Haven't been here quite that long. You maybe 18 years ago.
18 years. We moved from when I was up in Maryland, working in a big aerospace company where we spent 20 years there.
Okay.
As a program manager of two pretty. They were big to me. I mean, but in today's dollars, they're over $100 million programs.
Wow.
We had also was a marketing manager, and that was mainly international, which it took me traveling a lot of different places. Even from China to Europe, Egypt, Middle East, South America. So I got a lot of places to go to. And my customers, by the way, were 4 countries in Europe. On one of the programs I ran, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Norway. Okay. So that was a great deal to be able to take our test airplane over there and then test it in that environment.
Very neat. Yeah, you mentioned even in high school though you traveled about. So I guess you're son of a military man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad was in the he was in WW2. So in those days they didn't have the Air Force. So he was he was in the Air National Guard, and as soon as the war broke out, he jumped into that and was in England for during the WW2. Then he came back, got back out of the. And you could work as a civilian, obviously, in the Air National Guard or in the Guard, and so he did that until Korea came along, and they called him for the duty of that because they sent up the whole Guard unit. So he got called to Korea. Then after that, he said, "Hey, I'm staying in the Air Force," and so. After that, we were in Meridian, Mississippi, is where we were.
I heard Mississippi State there, as an SEC boy myself, my ears always perk up when I hear another SEC team.
So we and what interesting is that we actually we lived 4 years in Wadesboro, North Carolina. Because my dad was a Air National Guard advisor there.
Okay,
and so we traveled a lot and I don't know whether I mentioned to you earlier, but I ended up going to 5 different high schools and in 3 different countries, in the U.S., in Germany, and in England, and actually graduated from high school. And on the earlier show, I mentioned that we had a opportunity or privilege to have my senior class trip was to Rome
Wow.
and then to Naples and Pompeii, which I actually I call myself a novice, a novice writer. I don't even know whether I could even go up to the level of novice.
Okay.
But anyway, I wrote three books about some high school kids that were in Rome on a senior class trip, and they were going to the what do they call it? The catechisms? Not the catechisms. The
Catacombs.
Catacombs.
Yeah.
And they snuck away and we were going to go out there and smooch.
Okay.
But they observed a stabbing, and then the mafia was after him. So
Wow.
So it was.
What's the name of that book?
It's the one is about the Rome. Chased out of Rome. But anyway, I was just the high school experience was I thought was great because being a year in Germany and then 1 year in in London, and then 1 year near Cambridge. These were all at the Defense Department schools.
Wow.
So you had American teachers were very fine teachers in those days versus what we're
I'm sure you'd have the cream of the crop if you're going to take them across the world to have them teach. I think they're probably vetted pretty well.
Oh yeah, they were great teachers, and of course at the time, of course this was before the integration was going on, but we have obviously in the military we were integrated.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that. There was no stigma or anything like that. In fact, several guys were actually general officers that were black. So it was there was nothing of that going on within the in the military at that time.
So you moved a lot, Bill, and but you turned out okay. I can tell you turned out okay. See, my wife and I are scared to death to move our kids. We've attempted to move several times. We've been in the same house for about 17 years, and like I said earlier, we've got 6 kids. My oldest is 15, and we've built a couple of houses, and we've always chickened out and sold them. So we're scared to move, but. I guess I moved around a little bit. My wife moved around a little bit, but there is a sunny side there for some who have moved that much.
When we moved from we were in Hampton, Virginia, when I was at a military headquarters, and we moved up to the Pentagon, and I was working in Northern Virginia at the time. And then there, my son, when we moved there, he decided he wanted. In other words, it gave him a chance to change his persona, I guess you'd call it. Where he says, well, because he used his middle name now as his name. Okay. And of course, it was like when one of the friends came by and says, where's Lewis? Lewis? Who's Lewis?
Yeah.
So it gave a child
change of scenes, change his name.
Exactly. So they said if they had some baggage, let's say in a previous school, they don't have that when they get into the new school. You're treated in a way new. But I would have personally have liked to have, instead of going to 5 different high schools, I'd have been very, very happy to be at one.
Yeah, sure.
So that's.
Yeah, it's a tough. I moved freshman year. I went to an all-boy Catholic high school in Louisiana and went with all the same kids basically through elementary school. So that was kind of tough. But I've managed to balance out okay, I guess, and here we are. But so tell us, early on, as a kid, father in the not Air Force, but the air.
Well, he was in Air National Guard.
Air National Guard,
and then. It was the Guard first, and then he was when he was called to service in WW2. That's when the Air Force, the Army Air Corps became the Air Force.
Gotcha.
So he was essentially Air Force the whole time. They were just under different names.
So what was faith like growing up as a kid? In that environment, you guys were traveling a lot. What place did faith have growing up?
Well, both my mom and dad were Southern Baptist and good Southern Baptist, and so we went to church every Sunday. In fact, if you start looking at it, we actually had we had the Sunday school in the morning, and then a little bit after that you had the Sunday morning service, and then we'd come back in the evening for the for training union, which
Sure, yeah.
and
It's a
then
full
and
day.
then you had the evening service. So we were in church for 4 hours on Sundays, and then we had a youth activity on Wednesday evenings.
That's right. Yeah, I've heard of
So
that,
we were pretty active in the
Right.
church that way, and then of course there was Boy Scouts and
Sure.
and things like that. And we were pretty active in that. But again, it was Southern Baptist, and a lot of this was in Meridian, Mississippi, okay.
and
then up in like I said in Wadesboro,
Gotcha.
that we were that way. And then when we go to Europe, my father was moved to Germany. The Southern Baptist, you became, because now you're on base and you're essentially in the Protestant,
Okay.
because they had the Catholic services, the Protestant services, and the Jewish services.
Right.
So, we there it was even Methodist and whatever. You're all together.
Sure.
But you had pretty common faith. I mean, it wasn't, but it wasn't that close knit that we found in the when I was in Mississippi and in Wadesboro, because there your life really revolved around that church.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you're there for quite a bit,
Right.
So.
Yeah, it seemed like that was true in most denominations prior to the 1960s, and of course
Yes.
we talked about kind of
Yeah.
the veering of society in the 60s.
That's right,
and
yeah.
the veering of the church in the 1960s.
Yeah.
So what do you think that was? Because it definitely, in an attempt to supposedly bring people together, like we spoke about, to be
Yeah.
more inclusive, more diverse, we've done disservice to actually what true inclusiveness and diversiveness.
In fact, my wife reminds me that Bishop Sheen used to say that back in the 50s that it was just a Christianity. In other words, that if you went out and did something wrong, the neighbors would correct you. Mm-hmm. So in other words, the society was there to, but I don't. They use the current phrase now, like guardrails, but they were
Moral standards.
That's right. Everybody had a common moral standard. We were all.
Yeah.
It was a Christian nation,
Right.
and I think everybody they cared about when people would get off the track and try to and you wanted to bring them back and to keep them on track. And for kids, that you messed up, you did something, you threw a baseball and somehow it hit somebody's window.
Sure.
You even though you may run away, then all of a sudden you say, I can't run away. I got to go back and I got to confess to this and say, hey. And then you may get some kind of something you may have to do, clean up the yard or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it was the nation was Christian, and if I can, I want to go on a little of a tangent. But
Sure.
but I remember when I went into Europe, and we were Southern Baptist, okay. And of course, most of the nation, particularly in Europe, were Catholic. And a lot of the, I guess the radio programs, the TV programs, were talking about the liberalism of the bishops and cardinals, particularly in the Netherlands and in Belgium.
Yeah.
And I started, and it just kind of struck me as that's kind of, it's interesting that these people were going out of the norm that the Baptists had.
Yeah.
And and it was like, this is. Again, then I didn't know anything about Catholics, but I just started hearing the news, and it was just like, I don't know whether it did not necessarily taint my thinking of what a Catholic is, but it was just like these guys were seen to be veering off onto a different track, and of course they led a lot of the other the world.
Absolutely, they
off
still
the
do. Whenever the church stands for something or against something, you really typically will have the other denominations kind of line up behind them.
Yeah.
And when the church, the Catholic Church, deviates or goes on a different path, usually, unfortunately, the other ones follow.
Right.
So you brought up Southern Baptist,
Right.
and then as an adult continued to practice as a Southern Baptist?
Well, not really.
Okay.
As soon as I did, until I guess I started, got into college.
Okay.
And
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly.
SEC school.
Right.
I can vouch for that. Sorry.
Yeah. So, then it was, people. You you go out with a gang, you had drink beer and et cetera, and so. I guess when you're not at of course, when I went home for vacation, when I went home for during the summer, and then during the Christmas break, because my parents were living in Colorado Springs at the time.
Okay.
So
that's another city. Wow. I add that one to the list here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
And so there, of course, when I was at home, I would faithfully go to church with mom and dad because they insisted us to do that. It was not by a demanding, but because we loved our parents.
How many brothers and sisters?
Well, I have a brother who's 2 years younger, and then I have a sister who's about 13 years younger.
Okay.
So she was actually born in Germany.
Okay.
Speaking of that, my oldest daughter was born in England.
Oh,
so
you guys are all over.
Exactly.
Lots of fountain blood everywhere.
Yeah. So but the fact is that I was veering off in school. In college,
okay.
And then after my parents, they had to move to Iran, and I was graduating from college, and then once I went into the Air Force, into pilot training and all that stuff. It was there was. I don't think.
I think you cleaned up pretty quick at that point, right?
No. I just
no.
The typical thing of about a. I don't know whether it's typical, but the people think about fighter pilots as being these macho. Think about
the Top Gun guys, right?
Yeah, all they think about is themselves. So I fell into that category. I was very selfish, thinking about myself and didn't think that much about God. And my parents were a good part of that time were in Iran. Where Dad was restationed over there. My sister went with them, and my brother was at college also at Mississippi State for a while.
Let's take a quick break, Bill.
Okay.
I got the nod there from Mr. Brandt in the studio, and we're going to come right back. We're sitting down today with Bill Fountain. He is a CMS school board candidate, and we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Did you know that 90% of older adults wish to stay in their home as they age? Aging in place has many benefits. It tends to improve quality of life, which in return improves physical health. Also, retaining independence as we age is critically important to our mental health. Hi, my name is Meredith Dignan, and I am the president of Harmony Home Solutions and an active parishioner of St. Patrick Cathedral. We are your trusted partner for aging in place. We strive to enhance the lives of older adults and their families by providing premier aging-in-place and universal design lifestyle solutions that increase safety beautifully. Now is the time to get your aging-in-place plan in order with Harmony Home Solutions. Visit our website today at hhsclt.com. Again, that's hhsclt.com. Or give us a call at 980-220-8821. Again, that's 980-220-8821. We want to help you live an empowered and beautiful life.
Welcome back to The Obligation. My name is Jason Murphy. Thanks for sticking around. Once again, sitting down with my good friend Bill Fountain, his CMS school board candidate, running for District 1, fighting against the wokism infiltrating our school system. Bill, we were talking about getting ready to jump into your conversion story. I think we left off there when you were a hotshot young pilot, and fulfilling the mentality there that you're saying goes along with some of these the Top Gun idea. Very very machismo kind of idea. Right. So let's pick back up there.
Yeah, because. During that time frame, as soon as I got out of pilot training, I went to learn how to fly the F4, which was a twin-engine supersonic, twice the speed of sound. In fact,
wow.
I mean it's an awesome
cool.
airplane to fly.
Wow.
And I met my wife there in Tucson, Arizona. And interesting. I don't know if we could divert too much to this thing, but the interesting thing how. Before driving in there into Tucson, I remember I just felt like I got a little signal that says, "Hey, you're going to meet a girl here, and she's going to have a swimming pool."
Wow.
And that was it.
That's pretty specific, though.
Yeah, and sure enough, I met my wife at a party that neither one of us wanted to go to.
Huh.
So it was like, what is this? What's going on here?
Yeah.
So I didn't put everything together,
Okay.
and then of course I wanted to go. I wanted to find the quickest way to get to the war to fight.
Sure.
Well, that's what I guess a policeman wants to do the same thing, and the fighter pilot wants to get into the combat. So
that's right.
Even though it doesn't make any sense in the head, but that was what was driving me. I just wanted to go to combat.
Right.
So I got my chance and spent. I got to get 100 missions up in North Vietnam and a bunch in the South.
So you met her. Now, did you take the plunge? She's
No. In fact, I wanted to. I asked her if we could get married. She said no, because this would be a rush thing. She wanted to have a normal marriage,
Sure.
and I totally agree with her. So
So she
I
waited.
agree. Yeah, we waited.
Oh, wow.
And so I did my 100 missions, and at that time, because of the attrition rate, they figured that if you're able to live 100 missions, then it's time for you to go home.
Wow.
So
That's a scary thought.
Well, that's how they figure these things out. Anyway, so granted, we lost about a fourth of our squadron when I was there, but fortunately, I was able to come home,
Sure.
and we got married and
What was that time frame?
That was in 1968, in May of '68.
How long did it take to accomplish the 100 missions?
It took me 8 months.
Okay.
Normally, it's a year. It's a year's tour.
Okay.
But so I had 4 months and I was always volunteering to go to fight. To go up there. You say, well, the guy's crazy, but anyway.
Somebody's got to do it. We're glad you did.
Yeah. So anyway, I did that. We got married, and I had my next assignment was in England.
Okay.
And so we went to we went to England. I'm still. I got married in the Catholic Church. I did all the promises with the.
So she was Catholic.
She was Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Cradle
okay.
Catholic.
Okay. Well, hey, there you go.
Okay. So the Cradle Catholic, and then the priest that I had to meet with over in Da Nang, where I was at in Da Nang, Vietnam, that I had make all the arrangements that I would promise to raise the children Catholic, etc. That's part of the requirements to.
So when you made your first confession, could he understand you? Did he speak English?
Yeah, no. This guy,
Okay.
no. This was not a French Vietnamese. No, this was an American.
Okay.
American.
All right, good. Sorry, I digress. Sorry about that.
Well, anyway, so we got married. I got married in the Catholic Church, and I made all the promises, etc. And we went to England for 3 years, and I didn't do anything about the church. My wife went to church, and then. We came back and we got stationed at Seymour Johnson in North Carolina, and still haven't done anything about at the church. And after a little bit of time in Seymour Johnson or in Goldsboro, North Carolina, I had a remote assignment to Iceland.
Wow.
So I had to go over there. Left my wife and 2 kids now.
Okay.
They're in.
So this is early 70s.
Yeah, this was that's right, because this was we got married in '68. This was we came back in '71, so I went over to Iceland in about '74.
Okay.
And there we were intercepting the Russian bombers. They were flying back between Russia and Cuba. Anyway, at that somewhere along there at the end of my tour there. One of the backseaters he said, "Hey, Bill, you may be interested in this book," because he knew I wasn't practicing anything, and it was Hal Lindsey's The Great Lake Planet Earth, and you start if you look at the book, it's a evangelical, and it essentially says, hey, all these things that were in Daniel and in Revelations is coming true. I mean, so we've got some big things coming up. So that little book, or that book, it got me to start thinking a little bit about, what's should I start thinking about this?
Sure.
Even though I'm young, I'm in the just early 30s, I guess. Should I be worried about this? Well, and then came back home. We got another tour there in Seymour, and then close to the end of that, I was going to Las Vegas as part of military deployments, and I went to one of the Billy Grahams.
Okay.
Thing, and I walked down the aisle like we did when I was a kid at 10 years old.
Call, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I go down the hall and said, I'm going to give my life to Christ. And I just felt that, but it was not sinking in. And then when we left flying and went up to Virginia, and that's where things started happening. And I got, because I already had those calls already, and then that's where I became a Catholic. And the key reason of becoming a Catholic was, say, well, your wife was Catholic. Well, that's true, but she kept feeding me with little tidbits of information. After I read that Hal Lindsey's book, I started reading Augustine.
Oh, there you go.
So the Confessions and the City of God, and then my wife would casually. I'm one of these guys who we ate breakfast at a little bar at the table in the kitchen, and like a lot of people, I read the cereal box. Well, she would put little pieces of paper out there of books, other things that I might want to read, that are with conversion type thing. Wow. So these things were just pouring into my head, and gradually I said, hey, yep, I want to become a Catholic, but it was not because necessarily my wife was Catholic. It's because as a kid, as a Baptist, we really believed about the baptism of being submerged in the water. But even though it was very explicit in the book of John about the Eucharist as being the body of Christ and the blood of Christ, that they seem to say, well, no, that's just a representation.
Right.
But I always had that in my mind. And the more and more I got into that, that's what converted me. I hope I don't get choked up. But it was that belief of God is present in the Eucharist.
Absolutely.
And so when the more and more that sunk into my mind, I said, I've been wanting to do that years and years and years ago. I had those questions, but I never. The opportunity wasn't there, I guess, or I wasn't set. I wasn't prepared for that yet.
Sure.
The Lord had to prepare me for that. So we converted, or I converted and became a Catholic, and I was baptized in the second time, even though it wasn't necessary.
Conditionally.
Conditionally.
That's right.
Right. And but unfortunately, we were in a very liberal diocese. As you were mentioning about things, earlier.
So this is probably now when mid 70s.
This is
70s?
this is in the. That's right. This is in the late 70s.
So it's getting pretty groovy at that point.
Yeah, right. And but the diocese of we were in diocese of Richmond.
Okay.
And we were going to a diocesan parish. And that's where I became a Catholic. But because of the things that were going on within that parish, we decided to go to a Redemptorist, which was solid,
staunch,
good guys.
Right.
And that my son became an altar boy, and the kids were going to all Catholic schools from the get-go. Okay. So that was never, never a problem with that. And so that conversion, getting stronger and stronger, I guess. And then I don't know whether we have time, but there's a part that sealed the whole thing. Should I go ahead?
Yeah. Well, if we come up on a
okay, all right,
break, we'll pick back up. But go ahead.
So I spent my we left Virginia and then moved. Well, we moved to Northern Virginia, where I was stationed at the Pentagon, and from there I retired from the Air Force. I got my 20 years in, so I was a defense planner. That's one of the reasons I was mentioned that on my repertoire.
Sure.
But while we were as soon as we got to Baltimore area, south of Baltimore, I found out that I had cancer. I had bladder cancer, and and which was a shock. I was jogging, I was running, I was doing everything. I still run, but I couldn't believe it. What happened? And I think it was really that God was just really getting my attention.
Absolutely.
And then we went through. I was able to get into Johns Hopkins where they did successful surgery. But all that time, my wife was sitting. We were going to a parish where there was the people would pray over you, and so they would pray over me every once a week, during this time. And I remember one fellow saying when we were praying, he says, Bill, I can see that your bladder is clean. I just had a vision of that. I said, whoa. And they were praying over me a lot, and to the fact where you've heard slain in the spirit,
sure,
where people would fall down, and when they were praying over me, nothing happened. I didn't fall over or anything. And then I hope I don't get choked up with this, but I was going to school, going to work, driving in the car, and I was listening to a song called "I Want to Know What Love Is." I can't remember, it's about Foreigner or somebody like that.
I want to know what love is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was going singing along with that. I said, you know what? I want that love is about Jesus. I want to know, if I really want to know what love is, it's really, I ought to be thinking about Jesus.
That's right.
And as soon as I said that, my body just became, I couldn't believe it. I'm driving now. My body just became warm all around my stomach and all the area here. It was like, what is going on? I mean, it was the feeling was euphoria. I mean, it was like you could almost, I don't know what was going on, but it may have been that slain in the spirit stuff that I should have been slain in the spirit and falling onto the ground. It hit me the day later. And it was like, wow. And, because I just said, if this is what heaven is, man.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Wow.
And I was still driving.
Oh.
And
Jesus, take the wheel.
Right. Yeah. And I want to know what love is, was what the song was.
Yeah.
And it was, well, after that, it was because I'd been cured totally of that cancer. And I've been free of that for over 30 or 40 years. I don't know what it is. But again, that was.
So that got you kind of engaged. He gave you the nod.
Yes, and I've been trying to follow as best I could.
Yeah.
Really going to mass. I go to daily mass and
Nice.
and go to confessions.
And
So
you're at St. Mark's right now.
yeah, St. Mark's, right? Yeah,
great parish.
yeah, it is. We got a wonderful pastor and other priests there. It really wonderful place.
Yes.
And but that. I know that's a long conversion story, but
no, that's a great conversion story. It's beautiful. I think people need to hear that. We hear a lot of the reversion stories, but not just people recognizing that they had the beauty of the Catholic faith, but also what attracted people to come from another denomination to the Catholic faith. So it's definitely a great testimony.
Yeah.
You mentioned as prior to your conversion, your wife was Catholic,
right?
And so the kids were probably going with her.
Yes, exactly.
And you may probably went some, but maybe not every time, or.
Well, particularly at the beginning, I didn't.
Okay.
But I forgot a little. But later I started. When we moved up to Maryland, I did have a couple other things that had happened because I just had feelings that I needed to go do a little bit more in that respect as a father. But
that was my question, because statistically, when a father is attending church, the children there's a 77 or higher percent that the children are going to go when the father's leading, and it drops significantly when the father. So I was wondering, did you see by chance an increase in your kids' involvement or faith, once you converted and started kind of being, that leader in the home for faith, specifically?
I think so, because they were. My wife is a very good Catholic, and so she was. I don't know about those percentages, but she was leading all that.
Sure.
I mean, because they were going to Catholic schools from the get-go, and. I think it helped.
I'm sure it bolstered.
It bolstered things, right?
Yeah.
But I think my wife was. She had the lead.
She was doing a
that.
good job.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
but
you kind of sealed the deal. So
right? I guess you could say it that way, because it was. but it was it was profound, to me, of those things that happened to me, particularly that car ride.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's a beautiful story, and I think it's. I'm so glad you shared that. So I really appreciate you sharing it. That's a beautiful, wonderful, miraculous story that I think is very important for our listeners to hear. So I think we're coming up on our second break, so we're going to take a quick break. We're sitting down with Bill Fountain. He is running for CMS School Board. He is a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force, and we'll be right back.
Hello, Carolina Catholic family. This is David Papandrea, founder and chairman of Carolina Catholic Media. Please join us during our 2022 Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive season, starting with Giving Tuesdays and culminating with our 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-a-thon. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate resources to evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms in the Carolinas. Every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to grow our apostolate. When you consider the state of the world and the extraordinary times that we're living in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths and disinformation everywhere, it's clear why Carolina Catholic Media is here. Our mission is to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Diocese of Charlotte and upstate South Carolina. With that comes a commitment to create diverse local programs from our parishes, schools, and ministries. Our vision is to bring everyone together as one unified Carolina Catholic community. Carolina Catholic Media is a 501c3 nonprofit. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. To sponsor or donate, please email me at feedback@carolinacatholicradio.org or call me at 800-857-2909. That's 800-857-2909. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support us during our Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive. May God bless you abundantly.
Welcome back to The Obligation. Once again, sitting down with Bill Fountain. Bill is running for CMS School Board. He is a champion against wokism in our schools, running in District 1. Election's coming up on November 8th, so make sure you look out for Bill and look up some of his information. That can be found. Bill, tell me that website.
It's www.electbillfountain.com.
electbillfountain.com. Bill, I want to thank you so much for sharing that story. I mean, the story of your conversion, and then that witness that you gave, that our Lord reaching out to you and this cure from cancer.
Right.
I mean, just a beautiful story. Of course, we love hearing that, and we love hearing what drew people to the Catholic Church, or what brought them back to the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. And the role as fathers, especially in matters of faith, is something that is it's really ignored in today's world. And like I mentioned, a lot of folks look at religion, just religion as a whole, it's a sign of weakness, right?
Yeah, right.
Society looks at that as kind of extreme thinking, or back. That's just old thinking. We don't really believe in God, and those people that adhere to those traditional values, morals, ethics, Judeo-Christian principles, they're just not keeping up with society. Right. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of guys, even Catholics, even practicing Catholic guys, have kind of surrendered to that, and they're saying, we'll let the wife raise the kids up in the faith. That's sort of the women's thing, because practicing religion, or praying in front of anyone, that's a sign of weakness. And unfortunately, that is the furthest thing from the truth, because we are called to lead our families, to guide our families in prayer and sacrifice and in faith. So, your conversion, we mentioned, I had the question, did you recognize once you came on board, with the Catholic Church, did you see a recognizable difference, with your kids? And like you said, your wife was doing a great job.
Yes, absolutely.
And many wives out there are doing that, and they are doing a great job, whether they have husbands that are there and they're just not practicing, or they, don't have husbands. And unfortunately, that's becoming more common. But, But when you see a good, solid family, it's usually because a father is leading and he's showing that. And statistically, I mentioned, when a father's leading a family in faith and going to church, you have such a more involvement of the kids, and it's just a solid foundation. It's just a whole package of what we're called to in the model of Saint Joseph. In his silence. But in his leading and protecting of the family. So, so let's continue that story. So, I mean, you came back to the church. You had this miraculous cure from cancer. You obviously, felt our Lord reaching out to you.
Right.
You became, more attentive to Him, and began practicing, your faith.
Right.
What were some of the other, how you got more involved? What did that lead to, I guess, once you were at that point?
Well, I guess the first thing is that after going through you're going through a little catechism when you become, was it RCIA?
RCIA,
yeah.
Right.
So you're learning a little bit about the faith through that. So with that knowledge there, and of course, as a Baptist, we were pretty. We had a lot of traditions in the way of reading the Bible.
Sure.
So that was one of the things that even in Sunday school and training union, etc., that I was able to pull from and from my early childhood. So my wife and I signed up to teach catechism. So we did this This was for the grades that they were where they become. The confirmation, kind of like getting ready for that, and so it was pretty intense type of things. And so we'd have them over at our house in when we lived in Maryland, down in the basement, and we'd teach them the catechism, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was helping them to get ready for the sacrament,
right.
and of course we tell them about the things, the different aspects about the different sacraments. But the thing that because of the closeness and the real reason for becoming a Catholic was with the Eucharist, which is the paramount,
source and summit
of everything. I just I would I don't know. It come from my heart about what was what I felt, and I hope that helped these kids,
sure.
to think that, because it was something that
you believed.
Yes, believed.
You weren't just reading, out of a book.
Right.
You were preaching it. You were living it.
Yes, exactly. And that's like we mentioned maybe earlier, is that I try to go to Mass every day, as much as I can, unless something comes up. And that was one of the blessings I had at teaching at Christ the King High School, which is up in the Huntersville, up in the North Mecklenburg, is that as a teacher there, we had regular Mass. And sometimes it was the first thing in the morning, and it was great. Because when I first started teaching, I actually picked a school that started after the 7 o'clock Mass.
Okay.
So I could be able to attend Mass and then go to school. Yeah. But then obviously they had a Catholic school there, so I was able to go to that. But getting back to the to the earlier, is that the first thing we did was start teaching CCD and catechism, and became while we were there, became a lector and a Eucharistic minister. They didn't separate at the church I was at in Severna Park, Maryland. Didn't necessarily separate. You only do the lecturing, or you can do that. But during the daily Mass, the lector also did the assisted in the communion.
Okay.
So was able to do that, which was a great thing for me. I mean, to be able to participate that much greater into the Mass, because
Right.
I felt that. But and of course when at work, I was able to shift out of. I was a program manager of two pretty important programs. I think I mentioned that earlier somewhere in our
That's right.
discussions.
Yes.
And of course that job as a program manager, you're really concerned about your program
Okay.
and making sure it is going on. You're making money on the problem. You're making a profit. You're making your customer happy. So you're making your vice president happy. So you're keeping all those things going. But I felt like that was maybe a little bit more too much for me.
Yeah.
So I was able to move from that into marketing, where I'm supporting other people, and I felt a little bit more that I'm doing more something to help other people.
Sure.
Even though it's still a big aerospace corporation.
Right.
But it had benefits of traveling around the world and watching and going to masses a lot of places where I was able to go with fellow people. We were on these trips, like I remember going in Cairo, of searching all over the place for a Catholic church I could go to, and going to Mass, and then bringing these guys who were with me to the Mass.
Oh.
So
Evangelizing, yeah.
well,
Sure.
yeah, right. But it was just that I said, "Hey, I'm going. You can come with me,"
Yeah.
and they'd come with me. And it was better to have, when you're in a strange countries, is to have your someone else there rather than you're all by yourself.
Well, it sounds like the faith was your new program.
Yes, that's right.
So you put your heart and soul into your program
Right.
at work, and of course, as your faith,
Right.
even more so.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then of course, as that was one of the things that after I retired from up in the Maryland area, we decided to move down here to. It was, like I said, we've been down here about 18 years, and when we moved down here, I said, there's some things I need to do is to help other people. That's the reason I got involved with a Civil Air Patrol, where I was teaching and flying. And of course, I was able to fly again. I did that when I was up in Maryland also.
Okay.
But that was an important thing. And then the opportunity to go to Christ the King and teach for 10 years, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And there, like you said, even when I was teaching at CMS, I would tell the kids, talk to their angel helping you out on this quiz or on this test or whatever. Of course, that was heresy to say
of
that.
course, yeah,
but
sure.
I said,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? Fire me?
Yeah.
And I already had 2 retirements. So so it was I was not really worried about that. But I did wanted to make sure that they knew that there was. I couldn't get up there and preach or anything like that. But I did want to make sure that they knew that there was a religious side of all of us, and that there are people, that there are angels, that they're helping all of us.
I would think the kids were drawn to that.
I think they were, yeah. Because they didn't seem. I didn't get any push away from.
It's probably a sign of hope. And I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of those kids probably were in very hopeless situations.
Yes.
And so to have you there with those kind words and spiritually uplifting, I can imagine that would give them some hope.
I know, because I was a lot of times torn by some of the children that even had I think their father was murdered, because of some drug deal or something. It was very sad. I mean, and you're right. I think that, giving them hope, and fortunately, they all passed, which was I don't know whether it was so much about me. I think it was more the angels helping rather than necessarily me.
That's right.
But,
well, I mean, much is given, much is expected. Our Lord gives us this faith and gives us this light, and we're not, we're not supposed to put it under a bushel.
that's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Running.
God bless you, because you're going up against the devil right now.
I mean, it's
that's where the rubber hits the road.
I know it's it's 5 against 1. I mean, we get 5 of us that are running that one for the one seat, and I'm the only one in that that's challenging this whole thing, and it's coming from my heart. I mean, it's it's not necessarily something that I strive to be a public official or anything like that. You know.
Yeah, it's not like you're getting much notoriety and getting paid millions to do it. It's not like you're going to have a great reputation for being that guy. But,
that's right.
You know,
but it's something you just have to do. I mean,
no, I agree.
I guess I don't know how that God calls it, but he definitely pushes you into things that you're like, oh, why me?
Yeah,
but,
that's why I'm sitting in this room right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Somehow, some way, God thought this voice should be going through this microphone, and I still wonder, but we'll just keep going. But
exactly, yeah.
No, so that's great. So what really was the prompting? So had you retired from Christ the King before you began attending the board meetings?
Yes. What happened was that as soon as COVID hit,
okay,
I finished out that year the COVID, and I was talking to other teachers, and they're talking about, oh man, when we go back to school, it's going to be a totally different environment. And I said, I've already had 10 years of teaching, and I'm not a young chicken anymore. So I said, my wife was saying, yeah, it's time to hang it up. So I retired. I couldn't believe it. I got another retirement package out of that. So anyway, we left that, and then I got this urge again. Like I think I mentioned that. Hey, I need to say something because of what's going on in the schools. Yeah. I mean, it's it's like the evil has started to get in, or like I sometimes say, it's a cancer that's metastasizing through everything. Sure. And I just felt like that God was calling me to get out and say something. And saying something, then he said, well, maybe you ought to run. And I had not planned to run until the very last day of the filing. I just got this, said, hey, you got to run. And I ran down there and filed. I didn't have any plan or anything set up, but I had to get in because I had to make this as a voice.
Yes, I
had to say something that this is undermining our schools and undermining the person of our children. I mean, we need to go back to that idea of building character.
That's right.
That Martin Luther King talked about so many years ago, which was Christ centered.
Yeah,
and that's what Jesus wants. And so it's a long. Long story, but it's a path that I feel like I've been pushed into, and I'm going to do what he says to do because it's it's like you got something that you got to let it out.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm essentially trying to do.
Well, it's an attack on innocence, right? I mean, next to abortion, this is probably one of the greatest evils.
Right.
Is the corruption of innocent children, and the misleading of them, down these paths, and the destruction of society.
Right.
And that's ultimately what it is.
Yeah.
You're forming people who are not going to be capable of being contributing members of society.
Right.
And that's a sad thing to say.
Exactly.
It sounds extreme. It sounds like it's way out there, but it's reality, unfortunately. Right. So. Yeah. Well, Bill, we've covered a lot of ground, and God bless you for taking this next journey. I know I'll probably be like you. I'll never be able to retire. My wife, I've joked about it. I'm still got a ways to go, but she's like, "Oh, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself if you tried retiring." And I think I'll be probably following in your footsteps. I'll have 3 or 4 of those.
Well, you've been pushed that way. I mean,
and just being open to it. Open to God's will and listening to his voice, because it's out there. It doesn't seem like it's out there. You turn on the news and you go walk down the street and go in some areas of town. It may seem like God is not there, but God indeed is there, and he will remain there. So once again, Bill Fountain running for CMS School Board, District 1. Votes coming up on November 8th.
November 8th.
So make sure to go out and support Bill. And I'm going to ask you again, Bill, give me that website.
It's www.electbillfountain.com.
Got it. It's been a true pleasure. Thanks again for coming on The Obligation, and we look forward to talking to you soon, Bill.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
God bless, and Esto Vir. If you enjoyed this episode and have any questions or comments, or would like to come on the show and discuss your faith walk or any issue regarding the Catholic Church, send us an email at feedback@theobligationshow.com. You can also catch all of our previous episodes and all of the shows of Carolina Catholic Media at www.carolinacatolic.org. Click that donate button and we'd greatly appreciate it. There are also many opportunities to sponsor the show, the radio station, and the Catholic Men's Conference. Join Sensus Fidelium, Harmony Home Solutions, and Wallach Investments, who have pledged their funds to help keep Catholic radio on the air and relevant. Sensus Fidelium is a collection of Catholic homilies, apologetic videos, and other resources to grow in one true faith. They can be found online at www.sensusfidelium.com. Wallach Investment, LLC is a strategic moral investing firm committed to placing their clients' interest ahead of their own. Their mission is to be a force of good in their relationships to make the most of their clients' investment, giving them the time and confidence to pursue their mission. Contact Daniel Wallach at www.wallachinvestments.com for more information. For the Obligation Radio Show, the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas, and the Carolina Media Network, my name is Jason Murphy. God bless and Esto Vira.